What up, Street Talks? This is Eric Kim. Alright, so some turbo thoughts I want to throw out at y'all. So this one is about digestion. So one of the funny things is, Asian people generally tend to be obsessed with digestion, and then, I'm Korean, and they're always asking like how your digestion is. And as a kid, I always thought this was like a little bit weird. It's like only old people like to talk about digestion because, like, when you're a kid, your poops are just fine. But it seems as we get older, this over obsession with digestion is an interesting one. And considering that Asian, Chinese, Confucian medicines is actually been around longer than Western notions of medicine and stuff like that. And I think the funny thing is, even American society or Western thought hasn't really yet caught up on notions of digestion yet, whereas it actually might be one of the most important things to health. Whoa, check this out. What is this? Kind of cute. Nice colors. Yeah, I'm gonna steal this and then bring it back home to Cindy. The world is the best free spot for free stuff. All right, so let's keep it rolling. All right, so digestion, right? So I've actually realized, I'm even starting to like one of my friends was talking to me, is telling me like, oh, something about your mood or depression has to start with the stomach. So I'm like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Let me think more about this. So as of late, Cindy's been on a bit of a baking spree. She's been making kefir, which is homemade, like grains. Essentially, it's kind of making like some sort of yogurt drink, and she's been baking bread and stuff like that. One amazing thing she actually made was like, it's actually super good. She essentially made a homemade brownie with no sugar. So she just used eggs, butter, whole wheat, cacao powder, coconut flakes, and that's pretty much it. So the thing tastes amazing. Yo, check out this tree. Right, so she's making all this delicious foods, and I've been eating it, and actually I've been having kind of like stomach issues lately because, and finally I did the, upon doing some reflection, pretty much the issue is I can't process dairy. So even if it's highly fermented or highly aged, it's still like no bueno on my stomach. I mean, if I'm starving, yeah, I'll eat it, but effectively it's not good for my digestion. And so I started to think, man, even when you get stomach issues or stomach pains or food poisoning, it's like 10 quadrillion times more painful than even the world's worst migraine. And so as a consequence, when you have poor digestive health, it seems like it just totally fucks up with your mood, and also it just kind of weakens you, which I kind of don't like. So my personal goal is for me to have maximally hyper health, and so when it comes to digestion, it seems like the simple solution is to cut out, to self-experiment, to cut out foods which you know, it doesn't feel so good for you. So it's obviously different for everybody because as an East Asian descent, being Korean, you know, compared to Caucasian people or people from like Northern Europe, my ability to process dairy is a lot weaker. Or even simple things like when I drink alcohol, I get Asian flush, like I turn red, and so my body doesn't have as many good enzymes to digest alcohols and process it and stuff like that. And so certainly like my brethren didn't have as much time to evolutionary adapt. So, you know, obviously everyone's body is different, but I think this is one of the first important steps of you know, just overall individual thriving in health, is to essentially scrutinize your own digestion and try to maximize your own personal digestion and stomach health, whatever, to the maximum. So I can't speak for you, but let me just speak for myself. So it seems like the things that have been most helpful for me, first and foremost, intermittent fasting, so not eating breakfast or lunch. So this is actually a very interesting one because, you know, people talk a lot about like elimination diets and whatever. So certainly if you don't eat any foods during the day, right, like don't eat breakfast or lunch, then, you know, your body has enough time to digest the foods from the day prior, and therefore you're less likely to get any sort of stomach pains or ailments. And generally speaking, like even though all these like stupid health experts told us to eat like 6 small meals a day, they found that that's actually not good because it spikes your insulin far too frequently, which is actually not very good for your metabolism. It looks like human metabolism actually performs better where we spike our metabolism less often. So that's one thing. So I would actually encourage you to do intermittent fasting and kind of give that a go if you have stomach issues. Then after that, the second thing is, it seems like dairy, cheese, lactose, butter, you know, all the good stuff, it's generally not so good on my stomach. And you know, obviously everyone's body is different, but ever since I cut out all of it, I just feel a quadrillion times better. Even last night, I tried to eat some of Cindy's brownie bread, which has delicious butter in it. And once again, it's like the thing that sucks is like these things taste delicious and I like them, but if it's not good for my stomach health, I just need to cut them out because I care more about how my stomach feels than anything else. So I had to cut those out, and so I ate a little bit of that thing, had a bunch of butter in it, and I just felt like shit for the next hour or two. So that's another thing. And so even drinking dairy or even like yogurt or even processed anything that comes out of the udder of a cow seems to be no bueno for me. Even goes with goat cheese and stuff like that. It has less lactose, but still doesn't settle that good for me. The third thing I'm a little bit uncertain about, but it also seems to be quite wise, is I don't think I'm so good with wheat. So like even whole wheat or bread or pasta, stuff like that. It doesn't seem like it digests super duper good with me, at least for myself. And once again, this might be a little bit different for everybody, and I don't know who you are or what your digestive whatever is, but that could also be a thing to experiment cutting out. I know what I do digest well is, you know, I could digest all meats totally fine, all cuts of meat. I personally prefer really fatty cuts of meat, so the fattier the better, the more cholesterol the better. So I'll eat lots of you know, fatty cuts of pork, fatty cuts of chicken, fatty cuts of beef. So that's fine. Bitter greens, bitter herbs is delicious to me. So kale and collard greens, and then fermented foods are really good for me too, like kimchi or even sauerkraut. So my diet has been pretty basic. And then also, if I'm still hungry after eating a big dinner, I'll eat a bunch of almonds, which seems like it processes fine with me. So I'll just say, yeah, just experiment with your diet health for your stomach health, and starting from the stomach, then work on everything else.